Hey there, gamers. Welcome back to Cryptic Gaming. I hope you've been having a wonderful weekend. So it is now Monday morning. I want to show you one of the ships I've been using this weekend to really just kind of have some fun farming around for my Helm, things like that. Whether you're running these mini bosses or you're running Houston. Now, this is not going to be something that you're going to want to go against the walls with Mega Fort Houston. This is for ship-to-ship combat. So this is pretty awesome little build here. Okay, so obviously you're going to want a Sambuck for this. Now you can use other ships. I've done something similar with a Badar based off of another one of our gamers, Desert Rat. He built one of these, I believe it was with the Badar. It got me thinking about my Sambuck here. So what we ended up doing here is the Zama 3s. I put one on the bow here, and I went ahead and spun up the. Now you have a Raider perk. For those who don't know what that is basically charging up the vulnerable effect, which has to do with your boarding and your crew attacks and things like that. So it also has burning 2, which does a great job of triggering that ablaze effect. I went ahead and added firepower to increase the damage by 10%. And this front one, I was originally looking for amplified burning, but I ended up having to settle for a roar perk. Now 7.1% of the base damage builds up the taunted status effect. Now we brought that base damage up 10% here, and then we added long arm on there, which if you hit it at 70% in the maximum range, which happens quite a bit in these things because you only have a 250 meter range anyway, and you're getting additional 44.4% more damage on there. That's going to add that 7% base damage on here as well. So pretty sweet to add that onto it. And what that taunting effect of the roar does is it actually reduces the damage coming towards you by like 50%. So very nice to have that on there when going against bosses and stuff like that, or even these level 20 ships or these smaller ships. And it really triggers that. About every second hit, you'll see that thing trigger, and it's pretty sweet. Now, on the broadsides, I wanted to go full DPS on here. So again, you have that Raider and Burning 2 that's natural on here. We went with that firepower, amplified burning, and long arm on both the broadsides. Here again, firepower, amplified burning, and long arm. And then off the rear, I went ahead with a Fire Bombard 3. This is going to have Explosive 2, Burning 1, but I really wanted to focus in on Shock. Went ahead through some Amplified Burning on there as well because I wanted to take a little away from the explosive aspect in case we get one of those ships that heal a lot. And then we added Second Storm on there. This thing's just a beast against these level 20 ships here in Tier 2. Then on the center, I went ahead and went with a Warhammer. The reason I am running these shock, severity, and precision patchwork is I'm not using that Ouroboros armor that heals that severe damage that you see here in Tier 2 a lot. Precision patchwork is going to restore 201 damage to the ship as you're hitting those things. Now, I don't know if that's per rocket shot or for the full barrage, but typically if I have severe damage, I can fire this thing off, and it removes that severe damage off of this ship. So now, one of the cool things about this, I've built this to be a crew attack monster. Now, the reason for that is it's going to kick you heals, but it's also going to trigger a pretty cool effect for your armor. So you're going to be using this Crimson Lotus. If you don't have it, you're going to have to wait for that to come back around. You'll have to go to the codex and see where you find this thing at. But broadside weapon damage and stamina recovery after a successful crew attack. That's what it focuses on. Every time you do a crew attack, it's going to increase your broadside weapon damage by 33%, and it is going to give you a stamina recovery of 100% for 15 seconds. Now, the way this thing is built, you're triggering a crew attack about every second shot, or about every shot coming off of the broadside. If you're shooting off the front and swinging to the broadside and you're hitting weak points, you're going to be getting those crew attacks quite often, increasing this 33%, but you're also keeping the heals coming in towards you because over here on furniture, you're going to be using this scrapper station. We're going to explain it here in a minute too, but went ahead with Spike Warhorn. This increases the charge rate of your crew attack by 10%. You can also put on this scrapper station, restores 8,000 whole health after a crew attack. Like I say, you're kicking a crew attack out about every other shot. Pretty sweet for that. As long as you're hitting the weak points, don't come up and start hitting stuff and not hit the red marked areas and wonder why you're not getting it. It's because you're not triggering that full blast, which is what's charging that effect. So that's how you do that. Ramrod Workshop is going to decrease reload time of broadside weapons, so that's pretty sweet. It's already a 3.4 second reload, but you decrease that by an additional 7%. Plus, you're increasing secondary damage dealt by broadside weapons by 8% as well. Of course, we've focused in on that burning pork perk there. So, increasing damage to enemy ships with the blaze effect by 10% using gunpowder bench. Now, you don't have to use that, but I wanted to increase damage that's coming off the blaze effect because it triggers quite often, and I want to make sure that it's transferring over to the other ships in the area, especially if running like Mega Fort Houston with a crew. You're going to want someone who can deal with those walls, and you are basically the support ship dealing with everything else that comes in that ship related. You can just dominate those 20s with this thing. It takes about 3 shots to take one out. Pretty easy going. Now, does slow you down a little bit when it's those heavy armored, but like I say, hitting those weak spots are going to help you out as well. And if you're triggering off the blaze effect with the smaller ships in the area, you're hitting them for that blaze effect that comes off the Sambuck perk anyway. So that's going to be a great thing to have. Then, of course, Strange Elixir. This is going to increase the crew ability range. So when you're throwing those fire bottles, you're getting a 25% increased range on there. While your crew stamina is above 50%. You're not really running out of stamina with this build. Pretty sweet little option on there. Increasing crew attack charge rate by 15% again, and reducing the crew stamina depletion from bracing by 5% as well. And then, of course, adding that Lestari trophy, this is going to increase the crew attack damage by 7%. You want to make sure you're kicking out damage, a lot of damage, as you're constantly triggering this thing for heals and also putting out damage on those other ships. Increases your weight limit so you can carry a little more weight with this ship. It also increases your acceleration, which you're going to need if they take a little bit on some of these walls to get those mortars down. I do highly recommend it. A lot of great stuff that you can put on a ship, but that is what my little build is here so far. It is a crew attack monster. And if you want to watch your live, definitely check in on Twitch. Been having a few issues trying to stream live and get the videos over and all that kind of mess. Is some rubber banding. I don't know if it's in game. I think part of it is my internet connection, but it could also be part of it's Ubisoft on here. We get that rubber band issue every now and then just before we start looking at maintenance within a couple days. But that's what we're running right now, and I'll try to get some film of it up here in the next few days. But like I say, you can check over there where we ran it earlier today, and it's running pretty nice. So we may put some of that clipping here at the end of the video, guys. But hope you've enjoyed the little build here, and definitely put in what you're running today. I think it's one of the great options to have. Now, I'm currently using this for my Helm. Now, what I'm doing here with the Helm, just kind of a little quick update for folks, is I want to make sure I have this done, and I'm trying to get it finished by the end of the week. I think we can get it there. It's going to be pretty close. I will definitely have it done by the end of this season, but what I'm working on is we started here with our 5s, then we moved over here. We're doing the auto collect areas, and then, of course, I did drop a 5 over here on Houston Capital, and then I just ran this 5 over here, got some 5s in the lower East Africa. This is a area that has our auto collection system, and I'm thinking about doing the top ones first up here, but I think I'm actually going to come over here to the south here of St. Anne first to get these 10s done. The reason for, look at the amount of connections we have here. I mean, just a sheer number of, I mean, at least 1 or 2 per factory. So I think we're looking at here some pretty nice spots, looking at some nice connection points over here as well. So you're going to get those, I believe it's 11% boosts it shows here for each connected route that you've completed. And then when we get these up to 5s, that's going to help bring some of that stuff up as well, because, you know, we're getting, what is it, 42%? I think now is the boost here. Let's bring it over here. Yeah, 42% with a 12% reduction on cost. Now, does it really change too much what you're bringing in? You know, back in the day it did. I'm still trying to figure out some of the dynamics of this, and short of looking to see what I'm pulling in per hour here and then bumping this to a 5 to see what I'm then getting, it's kind of hard to say, but one of the reasons I've been focusing obviously on the auto collect areas first is because they're just easier to collect. But the plan is to have all our 5s done, and then of course our upgrades, I want to finish those off too. Everything that's going to increase by pieces of 8 has been done in the Helm here. Some of these we've also added where we could get these Ascension module productions. Some of them I've held off on, but I made sure I got like dependable laborers, which has to do with your pieces of 8. Some of them I didn't bother with the exotic material production yet, or even the Rempa dominance. Now we can bring these up as well. This is going to be bringing up a production rate of materials. Now I wanted the production rate of eights first, so that's why we went with dependable laborers. But eventually we're going to be coming in where we can actually build these materials as the game progresses, because you don't want to have to be coming to the southern section of the map to farm for things that you can actually just be building and funding with your eights. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Long term, what am I wanting to do? What am I focusing on first? If I could get my eights coming in. Now we do have this one here for 25,000, but I like I said, I've got 2 areas producing essential modules, which I'm not building anything new really, other than I did do those Zama 3s, and they're not too awful expensive to do. I do recommend having a set of those fully ascended, but then I might come in and finish off some of these other things like bloody orders and stuff like that. But I don't do a whole lot of boarding of ships. I usually just sink them, grab the gear, and keep going. It takes too long to try to throw the rope and all that mess. And usually I end up shooting them and sinking them anyway before I realize that, hey, you know what? I could have done that, or I do it and I think it's a crew attack and I miss with the ropes. Just, it's just easier to just sink them for me. But obviously you're going to play it however you wish to play that, guys. So, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's coming along pretty nicely, I think. So I hope you've been able to work on your helm. Now, if you're just waiting on Megafort Houston and that's your source of eights and your source for everything progressing forward in the game, coming into season 2 and even going into season 3s and into the final season of 4. Now, yes, you do have plenty of time to get this stuff done, but understand there's going to be new content coming out, things you're going to want to be focusing on, and you really want to get this stuff out of the way as quickly as possible, just so you don't have to deal with it anymore. I mean, you could looking at this stuff here, we'll probably be collecting here, probably again tomorrow on a lot of these territories. A lot of this stuff was collected last night, and we'll be collecting back in here again. So we're coming up to that 610 mark on a lot of these things, which is the maximum that your ship's going to haul, is 610s. Now, obviously, you can't set a ship on every location. Even if you have all of the auto collect areas, there's just not enough ships in your arsenal that you're going to be able to do that with. So you don't really want to have just ships sitting idle. It takes 7 minutes unless you upgrade to where they pick them up quicker. It takes about 7 minutes roughly for a ship to actually pick up. Let's check that out real quick. So time to den is going to be 16 minutes on this. So that is kind of a long pickup. There are things that you can shorten that up with. Me personally, not too worried about it. You got plenty of ships here to go and to sign on that. So it needs to be 11 and higher the further away you are. A lot of these 5s that we're going to be building over here, like say if we had a 5 here, this is auto collect, but if we had to send a ship, a 10 would be suffice, on that. So which would carry the 490, I think it is, to 610. So you'd be able to keep a ship over there. And same thing over here. We have a 4 currently, and we could pick this up with a 9. So you're probably looking at a 10 or 11. And we've got, some 10s and some 11s and some 12s, which would be plenty. It's the further away, like down in this area, where you're going to need those 15s once they hit 5s typically. 13s would probably pick it up, but a 15 would be the safest route on those. But very easy to do. I don't recommend building all 40 of your ships, guys, to go pick up 8s. Keep some room. If you look here, I've got 26 to 33 assigned, meaning I've got 7 ports open. So when these large ships come out, I can build several different large ships, and maybe even come in and tweak out some of these medium ships for things to take out those large ships in PvP situations. So think ahead. Try not to cram everything into one night if you can, but try to get something done. At least every day, pick one thing to get done if you can, and you will eventually get there. Hope everyone has a wonderful week.